A very good evening to all our viewers on live interaction with global change makers. It has been a while that we all connected, but we are coming back with a very prominent personality in the space of environment and CSR. She has an experience of more than 18 years in Godrej Boyce, and she is leading the Green Vision 2020, which includes achieving zero waste to landfill, carbon neutrality, positive water balance, reducing specific energy and water consumption, and increasing renewable energy portfolio. She is very well known in the industry for her concerns towards environment and sustainability, and is a renowned person who has also been working on extended producers responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Ms. Tejashree Joshi, head of environment and sustainability, Godrej Boyce. A very warm welcome to you, Tejashree. We are very excited to have you with us.
Thank you, Harsha, and I'm pretty much equally excited to be on this chat with you, and really looking forward to having a very intense interaction on sustainability, which is a core topic that I work on and I'm quite passionate about. Thank you, Harsha.
So, Tejashree, you did your graduation in environment, and since then you have pursued positions focused on conserving the environment. What is your motivation behind the same?
Yeah, so you actually mentioned about my graduation. So I would like to start from the point when actually I, got kind of introduced to this field, and I have done my engineering in environmental stream. So technically speaking, before coming into conservation space, I am more of a engineer at heart. So designing solutions for the problems is basically what engineers do, and even in the environment space, that is what I have been trying to do. So it started with choosing an choosing an engineering field which was a little different, and not the run of the mill in terms of very traditional lines. And to be very frank, I was not very much sure what was entailed for me in this, but nonetheless it was exciting to be in something which was new at that point of time. And so it is very fortunate for me, I feel, that being in this field for over 20 years now, literally my career has progressed as the progress of environment and sustainability that we have seen in the country. And so I have kind of experienced that every change that we as an industry or as a nation have gone through in terms of our focuses on environmental sustainability, environment, as well as the conservation bit. Some years down the line, as I started as an environmental engineer in Godrej Boyce, uh, there are new things, or there are new avenues which opened up in terms of the progression on sustainability, be it the green building movement, be it taking very specific business oriented targets on sustainability indicators rather than leaving it to be a philanthropic activity or something which is kind of top driven and not really business linked, to the point of also looking at new developments in terms of various mechanisms. I have seen the regulatory changes which has happened over the last 2 decades in terms of the progression and the speed at which it has progressed. So I think it has been very exciting in terms of looking at this change, at the same time my career progressing on the same trajectory as we have as a nation. Uh, Learning on the way various different new avenues, and I'm being very fortunate in of for being in an organization which has always been kind of leader and a guide in terms of the industry space uh, on sustainability. uh, Over the years, I also took up the responsibility of conservation in our through our various initiatives on sustainability. And one of our flagship programs is the mangroves conservation that we have in Mumbai, in the suburbs of Vikhroli, where Godrej Boyce has been conserving hundreds of acres of mangroves, which are there on its land since it was bought way back in the 40s. And we have taken very exciting projects, initiatives on this space. And one aspect that we have looked at is how technology and evolution of technology has helped both in pollution control, in sustainability, as well as in conservation. So I think the progression of sustainability along with the technological evolution is something which is exciting. And there are a lot of benefits that the sustainability space has gained from the technology evolutions. So be it the availability of data, which helps you take quick decisions, which helps you basically reduce waste, which helps you take mitigation measures very quickly. At the same time, it can be a predictive tool for looking at what would happen in the future and initiate initiatives or programs which would actually benefit and enhance the impact. So I think to cut it short, it's been very exciting. I've seen the progression and at the same time experienced that in my working in various fields, be it pollution control, be it compliances, or be it conservation.
Excellent. Now, you have, as we see that you witnessed the evolution of many frameworks which are focused on environment management.
That's
Which
right.
ones, in your view, have been most effective? And in the recent times, there have been splurge of these. So, which ones should we follow or should be followed?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think there have been many frameworks which have come up. Right, if we start initially from just the certification for ISO 14000 environment management system, which is today a hygiene factor for industries. I mean, it is something that many industries, most of the industries would be doing. But over the period of time, what is required is to maintain the effectiveness of these systems. It may be EMS systems, or we have different frameworks. Like if we see as a focus framework was on the Montreal Protocol, which was very much focusing on the phasing out of ozone depleting substances, which was a very crucial issue at that point of time. And we also realized that it has a huge impact on the global warming. So I think one of the most effective frameworks I have seen internationally, which has really performed on its intent, is the Montreal Protocol framework. And subsequently, we have seen many others develop within the country and internationally. Some within the countries also, I've seen what has been effective is the whole green building movement and certification framework. So as we know, the buildings constitute a large portion of in the climate space, over 30 to 40% of impact through its life cycle in on carbon emissions. And one of the very successfully driven programs is the Green Building Certification Movement, which looks at holistically the whole impact of a building, right from its concept to its operational and end of life phase. Today, we are looking at more at how do we integrate the whole circularity and end of life into it. But at least it began with looking at a holistic impact in various points of where influence this sector has on the environmental space, be it the passive design, be it the site selection, be it efficiencies in resources like water, energy, be it material use efficiency, or from where are we sourcing the material, what is the type of material that we are using in the building space, how much is the recycled content that the material has, to the quality of air within the buildings, looking at indoor air quality, looking at innovative solutions that we have used in the building space. I think that is one of the success stories that India can talk about, because over the last I would say 20 years since this movement has started, uh, India is the second largest footprint of green buildings in the world, second to just the US, where the whole movement started. So I think this has been one of the successful frameworks, and it has also actually motivated to take up more frameworks like product certifications, green product certifications. There are certifications where the whole company's processes are certified for green. And again, I'm talking about end-to-end processes, like right from the design and concept up to the end of life, or and everything within it, in terms of your procurement function, in terms of design function, in terms of marketing, in terms of production, maintenance, and through the entire process of manufacturing, and how do we make green manufacturing spaces I think that is another movement which has picked up very well. I think the Green Business Center is doing a great work on this. The other sustainability frameworks which we are today effectively using, one is on reporting, and I think there are other frameworks which individual companies adopt, and there are global frameworks which they align to. Like we are now talking about the science based targets, or we are talking about the EP100 initiatives, which is doubling of energy productivity. And you will see many Indian companies as well. These are global movements, and many Indian companies as well onboarding, because companies are seeing value in actually onboarding these frameworks. uh, we all know, and I think the corporate India very well realizes that climate is a very important factor in terms of business sustainability as well. And therefore, when we are talking about, say, doubling energy productivity, we are basically talking about, it is directly going to help businesses in their bottom lines in terms of improving productivity to the same amount of energy we are spending, or same amount of cost we are incurring on the energy spends. At the same time, decarbonization is a very, very important aspect that is going to de-risk businesses across its value chain. So it's a huge focus, and I think science-based targets to follow a 1.5-degree pathway is something that now businesses are effectively taking up targets which are on a long term, and that also aligns and helps our national targets in terms of being net zero by 2070. If we are talking about, or moving towards a renewable energy targets. So there are initiatives like RE100, which is actually moving towards 100% renewable energy. All these are complementing frameworks to the overall goal of net zero. And like we have seen, the green building framework or the Montreal Protocol, which is at an international level, we would see progress on these various initiatives as well. And I'm sure, with the corporate India supporting the nation's ambition of being net zero, these programs basically will help us accelerate these pathways and overall achieve that goal that we have set ourselves for.
Excellent. That's very informative, I must say that. Now, whoever knows Godrej, and as you earlier also mentioned about conservation of mangroves in and around the Vikhroli area, which is a very important initiative and very notable in that space. What are the other similar initiatives you would like to mention of Godrej and Boyce towards environment conservation and towards sustainable development?
So yeah, I think as if we talk about Godrej and Boyce, environment and conservation is a part of our DNA. And why I say that is, we have identified environment as one of the values based on which, the entire framework of the organization is based on. So initially, it is the intent of the promoters and the owners of the organization that environment has to be a major stakeholder in all decisions that we take as a business. But at the same time, it has now been percolated to the level of being tracked as important KPIs which are business linked. So what I wanted to mention is, it cannot remain sustainability or environmental sustainability, what we're talking about, cannot remain just a top down driven initiative or something that, a section in the company is probably keep on doing. It has to be part of each and everybody's key result areas. And I think what we have been able to take as an initiative in the organization is mainstreaming sustainability in our business operations. And for that, you would have heard about our good and green sustainability framework as a group. And Godrej and Boyce has been following that since over the last decade, since 2010. Now, that was primarily to mainstream and align environmental sustainability goals to the business goals. So what we were talking about, or we are talking about in Good and Green, is what are those focus areas which are material to us as an organization, and how do we mainstream that in each and every activities that we do. So based on the themes that emerged, we chose that we wanted to have skill development for the underprivileged youth who were part of our ecosystem as a business. So it may it be, air conditioner technicians, they may it be refrigerator service technicians, may it be a plumber, a mason, or an electrician who is going to serve our products in the market. But those youth which could not have a formal education in serving these products, are we had a target, basically set ourselves a target of skilling these youths in different areas of the country. That was one focus area. If I come back to the environmental sustainability part, there are two aspects that we looked at. One is the focus on making our processes and our establishments green. So when we were talking about buildings, apart from the buildings, all our manufacturing processes. And then how do we do it? We take we take targets which are aligned with our businesses and which will have a very clear cut goal in terms of achievement, like targets on energy efficiency, targets on reduction of water use, targets on recycling of waste, a zero waste to landfill target, a reduction of hazardous waste generation target, being a carbon neutral, or improving our share of renewable energy. So these are very specific year-on-year based targets for the decades time frame which were set, and they actually percolated right down to each and every operational level in the organization across our manufacturing locations. So they became part of the progression or performance targets for our employees across the banks. So it did not remain limited to only a certain sector of or a certain function within the organization. Apart from that, the next thought what was is how do we take this philosophy of sustainability beyond our campuses to our customers or to our consumers. And that's where one of the important targets that we took up was we should have a revenue based target for introducing green and good products in the market. So it was decided that at least one third of our portfolio would come from products which are green or which are good for the society. And again, this became very, very, very specific integration of sustainability with business outcomes. So what I'm trying to say is the whole intent that was driven was uh, sustainability cannot be a standalone function or an initiative. It has to be integrated or immersed into each and every function of the organization. And mangroves conservation has, in fact, I would like to say that it is going beyond business. It is going beyond CSR, and it is more of a passion and ownership of having this beautiful ecosystem on the lands that we owned. And from there, this movement started, where we started looking at three aspects on research, on understanding the ecosystem more in depth, conservation, or taking initiatives. How do we enhance the health of this ecosystem where it is there today? And third, on awareness. So what do we learn from research and our conservation initiatives? How do we propagate it to a larger audience across, going beyond our boundaries, across the city, across the state, across the country, and how do we take it even internationally? And the learnings that we have, and specifically to introduce this awareness to children, to students, to people from every age group, and why this ecosystem is unique. How does it benefit a coastal city like Mumbai, and the kind of ecosystem services it provides? And why should we as even individuals think about conservation of these ecosystems? So many initiatives we took in this, in terms of taking this beyond our boundaries, in terms of creating an app which gave an information on the various species of mangroves that we find across India. We also upgraded the app to include it in all the coastal local languages of the country, so that it doesn't remain limited to only people who are conversant with English or Hindi. And what we have seen over the last 5 years since we have developed this app, that it has been, in fact, downloaded and used across 112 countries. So basically, wherever there are mangroves or people who are interested in knowing about the conservation, they have been able to use this technology in intervention in conservation and spreading awareness. And we've got great appreciation for this. We are now, in fact, upgrading the app to also include French and Spanish as international languages, because we've seen that the app is not used only in the country, but across the world. So likewise, there are many initiatives we've taken on awareness on conservation, where we are creating ambassadors of for conservation through our programs and partnerships with institutes like WWF and many other collaborations that we have. And I think that's what I would like to mention. So apart from conservation, a holistic program on sustainability is what we are driving, and now we are looking at the next decade in terms of how do we take it to the next level.
Excellent. That's very inspirational for all the work that you all are doing. And I'm sure there are many companies who would like to learn far more about this initiative that you are doing. Now, there is a myth or reality. Sustainability is a rich man's topic. And the initiatives for sustainability is an expensive affair, and the profits may or may not be seen in far-fetched future in terms of monetary gains. So, what is your take on this?
Well, I think when we started this journey, I'm going back around 20 years when, and I'll give you an example of the green buildings. So when we started this in around 2003, uh, the fact remained that a green building vis-a-vis a normal building that we have was at least around 20 times higher in cost at that point of time when it was conceptualized. Uh, and that was the budget planned. But as we progressed, and I have seen this very quickly changing, today if you see a green building or a normal building, it would cost you almost the same. So what I'm trying to say is, if there is a need, the ecosystem develops, and there needs to be a clear push in terms of developing that ecosystem and demand of that kind of a products. So and the market quickly catches up. So everything today we do is a market driven, initiatives and price. And in fact, India is very sensitive to price, as we know. So I would say, any new thing that comes in has a cost to it, but at the same time the market revolves around it if it finds value in that solution, and very quickly the scenario changes. But while I say that, we also need to take into cognizance the changing climate, which is largely affecting many of our communities. And we are seeing these extreme events, we are seeing these harsher storms which are coming, and a lot of displacement that is happening. It threatens livelihoods, it threatens communities, it actually displaces their lives. And not only that, we also see a very clear economic impact in terms of destruction that it causes. And this is in around the world, whether it is a developed country, whether it is a developing country. The point is the vulnerability of different sections is different on for climate related events. And we pay a very high price. It comes with a high price tag around the world. uh, we have never tried and estimated what is the economic value of the ecosystem services that nature provides to us, and why sustainability and conservation should be mainstreaming in while we are taking decisions. And in fact, what we have been trying is we must have some concrete solutions to offer for growth opportunities, which are technology driven, but at the same time sustainability is a mainstream for our solutions. And across our value chain, we need to look at these risks in terms of climate related uh, impacts that would happen because of climate events, and what is the kind of price that we would pay in case of that events happening. And if we try to see that, I think we'll find our answers in terms of killing this myth that green solutions are for the rich man. And in fact, I would say, it is our obligation that we need to look at this, because the society which is vulnerable to these climate impacts do not have that wherewithal. And I think we'll need to take that larger picture into context. But we'll also have to be cognizant of the fact that we are not left out from the impact, and severe economic impacts have been experienced by countries, by cities, by communities, and at the same time by companies, because of disruption of climate, because of resources not being available as planned. May it be water scarcity, may it be fluctuations in the energy availability or prices. And at the same time, when we are looking at extractive businesses, the huge amount of impact we are having on destruction of environment. is also, multiplying in terms of impact as we progress. So we cannot take a very myopic view of this situation. And there are now initiatives, there are now attempts being made to put a price tag on the ecosystem services that nature provides. And when we actually start looking at the true cost of what we are taking from nature, what we are taking from environment, and why we need to sustain that over a longer period of time, just to, very basically ensure our own sustenance as a business, as a community, as individuals. I think this myth is a myth which can really go away. And again, coming back very basic to the business of green, uh, I see tremendous opportunity here, and I think there is a huge competition now which is coming. I think the sector is opening up. There are so many avenues and opportunities for startups to bring in climate-related solutions, and I am sure, our startup ecosystem is so robust that they are quite aware of the fact how this market is, or each and every market in India is price sensitive. So there are very innovative solutions which are coming up, which are affordable. And I would again say anything new that starts, it comes with a cost, but it is very quickly that we overcome this barrier, and the whole ecosystem develops to support this initiative if we find a value compelling enough for that solution or that initiative. So I think we all need to have a little more broader and a more holistic approach in terms of looking at this. Very important is to look at the life cycle cost that we are incurring for everything that we do. And when we actually put that in perspective, or you start pricing things at an appropriate level, like for example, you start putting a price to the carbon emissions, a lot of payback calculations change. You understand? So there is a mitigation cost and there is an avoidance cost. So if you look at that, the more often than not, the avoidance cost is much, much lesser than the mitigation cost. And when we start looking at it, our solutions with that perspective, at options with that perspective, I think, that's where the myth gets killed. And these are all mechanisms which are evolving, and I'm sure, very quickly we will start this discussions at different levels, and people talking the same language in terms of costs of environment conservation.
We really look forward to that day coming. Now you all have such big and magnificent projects all across. Do you all collaborate with governments or NGOs for your project? If so, please share some case studies. And or do you all do it by yourself? Or and if you all collaborate with any NGOs, what is the screening process for the same?
Yeah, I think today I don't think anybody can work without collaborations. Collaborations is, essential, and I think it is, by that we just not help make the solutions more holistic, but at the same time it is also a good way of actually propagating good ideas across, a larger impacts sections. So we do many programs in collaboration, and I think one of the first, I would say, one of our initiatives which was done with government and the support of government was moving from ODS based, refrigerant systems to ODS free systems. And Godrej Boyce was one of the, in fact, the first company in the country to introduce ODS free refrigerators. Way back in 2000, and it happened through the, like I mentioned about the Montreal Protocol and the framework. So it was an extensive work that we did in with the help of government, through the Ministry of Environment and Forest, to the ozone cell, where we required this technology transfer to come from developed countries to the to country like India. And I think it was one of the great efforts where this multilateral initiative was a success factor. But this is business, and we've done lot of partnerships in business with educational institutes, with startups, looking at supporting technologies where we find there is affordability as well as sustainability in that. We have helped bring in this knowledge and information on sustainability. And one of the initiatives I can talk about is 3D concrete printing that we are currently pursuing with one of the startups from IIT Madras. And here, what we are trying to introduce is how do we use waste, construction demolition waste, as a raw material in the 3D concrete printing solutions. So that's integrating technology and sustainability. But like I said, this is business. We have been in fact collaborating with NGOs for many of our conservation initiatives. And I was talking about mangroves. I spoke about our a large focus on our initiative is creating awareness, and this building this importance in the minds of people, that why do we need to conserve this unique ecosystem, and we cannot do it alone. As much as we try and do it, there's still a limitation with the small team working on it and our outreach. So here we actually partnered with WWF, and over the last 2 years, in fact, this is the third year, we have been running a program called Magical Mangroves, where the whole intent is building capacity as mangrove ambassadors across, all the coastal states of India where we find mangroves, and through these volunteers. And that's where WWF actually brings the strength to the table, because they have these state offices, they have a base of volunteers, they have a framework and functionality. How do we onboard volunteers for such programs? And what we bring to the table is our knowledge and expertise on mangrove conservation, the content that we create for communication, for social media, for the print media. How do we give the content to the volunteers in terms of the mangrove app? We give them with a storybook which we have come out for children, in a form of very interesting story, to again educate them on what are mangroves and how do we conserve them through a very interesting storytelling way. And at the same time, there are a lot of many other tools like the website, our research project reports, and also roping in experts who train these volunteers in terms of carrying out awareness programs. So here we are training the volunteers, and in turn the volunteers further conduct awareness programs within their states, within their cities, within their areas, through schools, colleges, or community groups, to again, multiply this word about conservation of mangroves. And again, when we're choosing coastal states, they are stakeholders, so they have these ecosystems. And I think this has been a great partnership with WWF, like-minded NGOs on conservation. And we are into our third program. We have in fact trained over 120 volunteers in this, and the outreach has been around 20,000 people through the over the last 2 years. And so we are intending to looking at how do we scale this up, how do we improve the impacts of this, and how do we enhance this outreach. So I think, yeah, so that's one of the initiatives. Apart from that, this was on conservation, and apart from that, in through business, we actually work very extensively with CII in terms of all the climate related initiatives, may it be plastic, may it be the climate change, or many other such initiatives on climate and sustainability. Here what happens is, when we are collaborating with industry associations, there's a lot of knowledge exchange, there's a lot of information exchange and experience exchange. At the same time, this is a great platforms for different stakeholders to come together to find integrated solutions. So there is someone who is providing a solution, and there's someone who needs a solution, but both of them don't know each other, and both of them don't know each other's pain points. So this is where these collaborations help. While shortlisting or scrutinizing whom do we partner with, um, I would say it is more on what is the intent of the outcome, and the alignment of the thought process in terms of what we want to get out of the entire exercise is the prime criteria for us to shortlist. I don't see there should be any other criteria. Basically, the size or the region, the location from where the partners are based in is not a criteria. It is more of the intent and the alignment of thoughts and the outputs that we are expecting is, I think, primarily what we look at when we look at partners. And many are CSR in fact, all our CSR programs are through partners, and many of them the local community based organizations, the NGOs, who are very effective in that their field of work, at the same time in those regions. So based on our output and the need that we are looking at, we partner with various organizations.
That's great. So also the grassroots level NGOs can approach you all, and they could expect collaboration, and not only industry association.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's that's great. See, you have led so many different projects, and you just mentioned about so many of the wonderful projects that you all are leading. Which project would you like to scale at a pan-India level and maybe internationally? And what kind of support system would you require for the same?
Right. So I spoke about the Magical Mangroves program. In fact, we have scaled it up across most of the states, which are coastal states in the India. In India, through our app, we have been reached to many countries, across the globe, who are interested in knowing about more about mangroves. At the same time, we are now working with corporates who are actually interested in conservation. Now if you look at conservation and corporates, most of the corporates today have climate programs, they have sustainability goals, and what we're trying to say is conservation is a great tool to achieve your corporate sustainability goals, may it be carbon sequestration or or offsetting your footprints. And we began this again with we're partnering with WWF and CII on how do we propagate the conservation of mangroves to more corporates who are interested in this. And if you know, CII has a program called India Business and Biodiversity Initiative, where it is mainstreaming of biodiversity considerations in business decisions. And we thought it was a great platform to use for propagating the importance of mangrove conservation through corporate interventions. And while we began that, we also, over the period of time, uh, 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 there was a discussion with government in terms of the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and government is also pursuing a program on its Amrit Sarovar initiative, which is in celebration of the 75th year of independence, and they're talking about wetlands conservation across the country. So mangroves is a type of wetland. At the same time, you also have different wetlands which are inland, which are freshwater wetlands, and many others. So I think so we had this great alignment in terms of thought, and so now in fact we have enhanced this program on mangrove conservation, what we are talking about as India Mangroves Coalition, to India's Wetlands Coalition. And we have great partners now, like the Ministry of Environment and Forest, the Wetlands Conservation, the GIZ coming into as more partners to the initiative, who bring in their strengths. And this program, we are looking at how do we scale it up at the national level, through collaborations with NGOs, through collaboration with knowledge partners, through collaborations with funding partners, as well as industry who is interested in conservations across their manufacturing areas or their focus areas. And how do we bring in, nature-based solutions for mitigating climate action, or mitigating the climate impacts, or driving climate action. That's the whole focus. Now, if we are talking about, international level, I think there are many collaborations that are there. There are collaborations on cooling systems, where we are part of as an organization, because we have cooling solutions through our products. There are collaborations on, I was talking about the green building space. So we are working with World Green Building Council to now drive the net zero buildings initiative in the country. So in the Asia Pacific region. So we have signed this MOU with the World Green Building Council, where this is a movement from just green buildings to net zero buildings. And having done the first net zero energy building in the country, I think this is a leap that the building sector needs to take in terms of looking at its further mitigation of its impact on climate and related aspects. So again, this is done at an international level. Uh, Through our business interventions, there are many such initiatives. One initiative that we are also being part of the industry association and collaborations, and looking also at other success programs across the globe, is through India Plastics Pacts, which is again driven through the CII. Here we are talking about how do we value plastic more. Uh, as a material, and uh, and so that we take initiatives and avoid plastic basically going into environment as a pollutant, and find its right value in terms of upcycling, in terms of reuse, in terms of recycling. And while we started this program in under the India Plastics Pact, I think we have also seen a great alignment with the new plastic regulations through the extended producers responsibility which has come up. And the program is helping industries to gear up to what they need to deliver and take ownership on the plastics that they are putting in the market because of the sale of their products, and at the same time find solutions in terms of making their use of plastic more and more efficient, more and more cleaner, and enhancing the possibility of more and more recycling and upcycling of these materials.
It's a very interesting take that you mentioned about the plastic right now. You represent the leading manufacturing company wherein every household has your products. The industry is going through a backlash because of packaging materials, especially the plastic. How are you planning to address the packaging concerns of consumers globally? And what are your thoughts on achieving circular economy? I myself use many of your products, and uh, with consciously, I have not thrown any of the packaging of the products, and I am conserving the packages right now, so that when the bag is full, I'll find somewhere where they actually recycle the plastic. Because if we throw in the normal garbage, I'm not sure if it will ever get recycled, or if I will find it tomorrow while walking on the beach. So how do you address this concern and for circular economy?
Right. So, so I think, yeah, the first step of for any corporate or any organization is the ownership of the footprint that it is creating because of its products and the business, and taking that responsibility and then deriving solutions across these responsibilities. I think the first step that anybody can take. So as Godrej Boys, where we started was we have started eliminating the use of single-use plastics across our operations everywhere, and we did this in 2018. So so it began with that, and realizing this importance or realizing our responsibility. And it also got substantiated with the new rules which came in on plastic waste management. And what our attempt has been is going beyond, just not just complying to the regulation, but going way beyond it. So the approach that we have very systematically taken in the plastic whole plastic space is, like I was mentioning, the first step is elimination. So identifying where are those wasteful use of plastics in our packaging, and can we eliminate that in the first place through design interventions, through have a redesigning of packaging, and our through at the right at the concept stage, or substitution in terms of looking at where can we replace the use of plastic with more recyclable, more sustainable, and more cleaner material. That has been the first step in terms of elimination, in terms of looking at whether we can reuse, at least within our operations, the plastics that are generated. That has been our next approach. As I said, recycling, or in fact, we're working with our supply chain in terms of how do they take away the packaging that is generated because of this supply of raw material or components, and reuse it back, or bring it into formal recycling mechanisms. So I think the initiatives have taken a very hierarchical and a very systematic approach over the years since we began this. I think we became probably one of the first organizations in the country to become plastic negative. And in the sense, what I'm saying is we have collected and recycled plastics which are more in quantum than the quantity that we have put in the market because of the sale of our products since 2018. So So in say like in example in the year 2019-20, we recycled over 146% of the plastic material that we put in market, and which became around almost double in the next subsequent year. So over the last 4 years, we have in fact recycled over 10,000 tons of plastic beyond our fence. So I'm not just talking about the plastics which is generated within our manufacturing setups, but beyond our fence, from the open market, from generated from the post-consumer use of our products. And this we have done not very skewed in terms of locations. This activity of recycling plastic from the open ecosystem is now spread across all the states and union territories of India. So today we are doing plastic recycling to the in proportion to the impact that we have through the sale of our products across 34 states and union territories in the country, and including Jammu and Kashmir, including Leh, including all the far east states. So not leaving out. And it is an equitable distribution approach that we are taking in terms of recycling through our extended producers responsibility program. Over this we have developed partners who could gear up to our expectations in terms of spread, as well as in terms of volumes that we want them to recycle. And not only just that, we have also focused on all the types of plastics that we have used, and the proportion to which the usage is there. So it's not like an offsetting in terms of if we are using a certain recyclable plastic and then just processing certain other type. We have tried and focused that we recycle each equivalent quantities of plastics, both in terms of type, in terms of locations, in terms of geographies, and in terms of quantities. And over that, we have developed partnerships with our partners who can service this across the country and across the length and breadth of the country. So while doing this, like I said, we have recycled over 10,000 metric tons so far, and we intend that we recycle over 25,000 metric tons at least over the next 8 years. And this is also substantiated that our quantum of generation of plastic through the waste that is generated is been coming down over the years. So like when I was saying, substitution of material which is more recyclable, which is cleaner, which is non-plastic based, has been a focus in the design interventions, and that has resulted in our plastic use being reducing over the last 4 years, despite of the growth in our businesses. And we are truly deploying the redesign, reuse, recycle, and recovery as a hierarchical approach for owning this ownership of plastic that we are using, and seeing to it that we are recycling them in a meaningful way across partnerships across the country, and seeing that plastic basically gets its value, and instead of landing up and being in the environment as a pollutant, driving towards packaging which is more and more recyclable if it is going to get out of our premise as part of our packaging.
So soon we may have a plastic-free country.
Well, uh, I would say I don't think plastic is as bad that we are thinking. It is the management of the plastic which is bad. So as a material, it has always been a wonder material, and it has huge recyclability. Let us understand that. But at the same time, what is the problem is the mismanagement. And I think another area or the problem is the overusage. So if it is a good material, we have in fact been using it in places where if it is not even required. And that's where the first approach of eliminating wasteful use of plastic, I think, is the key in terms of improving the reducing the quantity as well as improving the management. So as you start making it more and conscious of making it more and more recyclable, it starts finding value down the chain in terms of the entire recycling value chain. And that's whole the intent is that how do we improve the value of the plastic which is going out as a waste. So I would not say that we can be plastic free, because I think plastic has some fantastic uses if we actually look at it. But at the same time, we need to be very conscious and responsible in terms of usage and management. So, but yeah, we are seeing progress on this. We are seeing that, there is a market-based mechanism which is being evolved in terms of, the plastic recycling space. And a lot of it is being supported today by the new rules and regulations which government is trying to put in, putting in the ownership on the brand owners, in terms of, taking that responsibility of management, and in the whole bargain try and develop a market based economy or a market based system where plastic finds its value, and all the stakeholders in the chain get their due. And at the same time, you also, how do you rope in the entire informal sector in the plastic space? I think that's very key for plastic management.
Excellent. It has been wonderful discussing with you on circularity. Now I would ask about our own institution, and we have been dedicatedly working to educate people in responsible business leadership. What are the courses that you see that there is a gap in the industry and that the existing workforce needs to learn, or the future workforce who are coming in the companies, they should know about it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, see, if we see today the educational programs, or even in schools at every level, you have this sensitization to environment conservation. In fact, I have heard that some schools also talk about SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and I think it's good in a way. Sensitizing kids to, or children to, the current topics is a good way. Uh, the only thing is how much is the understanding in this. And while over the period of time we keep hearing these terms, the real meaning is not really, not always being very evident with people. And once you get into setup, especially, business, uh, all businesses are today talking on sustainability. It is a very, and ESG. Uh, so these are all keywords we will keep hearing, but again, when we come to organizations, what is the depth of understanding? And I think there is a huge capacity building potential which is there today across the bands and functions of a company. And so the fact is that everybody impacts on sustainability or environment. What is essential is to find what is your role in, particularly in this area. And so what do we need is workforce, whether it is in manufacturing or any other sector, to understand the impact of their individual activities on environment. Everyone, even at, individual level, should be able to take up steps to reduce their, say, carbon footprint, to conserve water, to reduce material use, to conserve energy in their activities. And this education needs to go down to those very basic levels across the functions. May it be a shop floor worker, or maybe a manager who is going to make strategies. And I think integrating sustainability being the foundation of company strategy is extremely important today. There is a lot of now talk at the boardrooms on environment and sustainability, but which obviously percolates down. But I think there's also a lot of haziness still there across bands and across functions, in terms of what role do they play in this whole ball game. And therefore, I think going down to that level, what is the role of a procurement function? How are they going to influence in terms of sustainability? Are they looking at the suppliers in terms of scrutinizing them on their sustainability parameters? Are they demanding that suppliers take responsibility of their footprint? Are they asking them the right questions while sourcing in terms of their carbon footprints, their activities on conservation, their activities on environmental parameters? And are we using these criteria to onboard suppliers? At the same time, down the value chain, are we actually communicating or tracking their performance on this? So that's a role of a procurement function can play. At the same time, a design function basically plays a huge impact in terms of design, keeping environment or sustainability as a basis for design. So what we actually call as design for environment is having those parameters that you would have while creating your designs, and they essentially become your primary parameters. And here, the best approach to take is the life cycle approach. So when you do an LC of your idea, of your product, you end up identifying those hotspots. And when those hotspots are known, there are very concrete steps that you can take in terms of mitigating or reducing those hotspots, in terms of substitution, in terms of looking at alternate material, in terms of looking at alternate energy process. How do you bring down the footprint of your transportation? The whole ecosystem approach can be taken, and the collectively the impact when we look at life cycle approach is much higher than just looking at single attributes. So huge role a designer takes in this. What is essential is in all these functions to base it on sustainability indicators, and integrating it in the process itself. So even to the level of marketing and sales, are we communicating the aspects of sustainability in your products in the right language that the consumer will connect to? Are we making it easy for them to understand the benefit of using a greener product than a normal product? Even to that level, I'm saying. So each and every function has its role. Each and every function needs to understand its role in the entire umbrella of sustainability. And I've given you avenues in terms of where all the capacity building is required, and how do you design programs for that.
Excellent. It has been a pleasure talking with you today and learning so much from you. Any message for all our viewers who would be watching now the recorded session?
I think I will keep it very simple. Let's practice what we're preaching. So, like you were saying, very small steps at individual levels, where we consciously look at what we are doing in terms of what we are buying, in terms of how we are using it, in terms of basically knowing what is happening to the materials that we have already used. Even understanding the end of what is happening. If we are even simply throwing a packet of say potato chips, what happens with it is a huge awakening, I feel. And taking those small steps goes a long way. But at the same time, being professionals, I think we need to understand our role in this. Uh, so everybody plays a role, and if we are here, I think we need to get into the shoes of being solution providers. So at whatever level we are, at whatever functions we are, at whatever our technological or our expertise, how do we keep environment conservation and sustainability as a core thinking in whatever we do? And I think let's start understanding that environment is a big stakeholder in everything that we do. And when we do look at the stakeholder mapping for everything that we do, we need to give its due value, and we need to start valuing it for the services that it is giving us. So that is all that I would like to say. Let's start understanding our individual responsibilities and act accordingly, both professionally and personally.
Thank you so much, Tejashree. Very well said. Let us work on our own individual footprints and then spread it across the world. Thank you for joining us on live interaction with global change makers. We wish you all the best, and I'm sure all our viewers would derive a lot of knowledge and information. In case anybody wants to reach out to you, can they reach out to you over email?
Absolutely. So my mail ID can be shared, and they could definitely reach out to me, and we would be very happy to actually share our experiences and the practices we have been following.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you, Harsha. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.